just a little bit about us before we talk about some of the things that we've been doing. So we are Sound and Music. We are the National Agency for New Music and Sound. These are our offices in Somerset House. I don't know if any of you are followers of fashion, but those of you who are may be aware that it's London Fashion Week there at the moment, so it looks rather different. So if you imagine that space, but filled with a marquee and people wearing extraordinary things, it's like that at the moment. So, yeah, we're the National Agency for New Music and Sound. Our purpose in life is to maximize the opportunities for people to create and to enjoy and experience new music and sound in all its manifestations. Like LSO Sound Hub, we also work across the broadest range of styles of music, constantly sort of pushing out. The thing that we really wanted to talk about today is something that's increasingly being kind of preoccupying us. Our work is very much centred around, as Andrew said, it's centred around the people who create the work, the composers, the artists that we're working intensely with. We're working with about 80 of them at any one time. I'm really thinking about kind of giving them the space and time to be ambitious and to really push the boundaries of what they want to do. And that rather naturally led us to reflect that, in fact, in some ways, you could flip that and say what we're about is creating the right environments for creativity, for innovation to take place. And actually, if we look across our programme, that kind of cuts across in so many ways. So whether it's about creating the right environment for an artist or composer to create new work in all kinds of new ways, whether it's creating the right environment for organisations through our partnership working to explore new ways of connecting with their audiences, or whether it's simply about kind of new ways of working more generally. This process of incubation and creating that space when genuinely new things can happen is absolutely the heart of how we work. So what we're going to do today is just very sort of briefly talk, I suppose give some exemplars of how that has worked for us and some of the things that have happened and that we've learned along the way. And obviously, Kealy and I are around all today. We'd love to talk to people, very happy for people to get involved. There's lots of ways you can get involved. Also, do go to our website, soundmusic.org. Right. Okay, so, hang on. Oh, great. So that was a film that illustrated a project we've done recently, and probably one of our most ambitious projects to date, which was, as you've seen from that film, an immersive sound installation for forests. Can I just check, did anyone manage to get to see it? Hooray! And this is, I think, it's a really good example. This is, so the two artists you see here are James Bulley and Dan Jones. They've basically been working on this project for 2 years, and what we did as Sound and Music was bring the right set of partners together so that they could develop this incredibly ambitious piece. And when I say ambitious, it's really ambitious. So what you just sort of got a taste of there is basically the results of many, many months of incredibly hard work. So for what they did for the 4 sites that they were presenting in was that they worked to map the ecology of each of those forests, which is unique. All forests are very, very different. And then for each kind of species, whether it was a particular kind of tree, whether it was a worm, whether it was a moth, whether it was some grass, they created and pre-recorded using live instrumentalists a collection of cells of musical material, and then creating sort of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of small recordings. And then in the installation of the piece, they have, as you saw from the film, they have all the speakers dispersed at different levels. And according to different time of day, climate, season, etc., different species come and go. And they've also done something incredibly clever, which I haven't got time to explain now, which somehow makes it incredibly seamless and very, very harmonious. So as you heard, it's really beautiful. So this is by far the most ambitious project that these guys have ever done. And what we did was we were able to work with the Forestry Commission England, bring funding around it, bring specialist equipment from Bowers and Wilkins to really enable them to do that. I know it says it's coming in the summer of 2014. That's slightly, I'm afraid we've just had the last presentation, which was last week in Bedgebury, but I hope that we can do it again in the future because it's just one of the most magical things I've ever seen. I'm going to hand over to Kealy now to talk a bit about another project.
And so for the first time, and it's this year, it's currently ongoing, we're working with a museum to bring sound art into one of their exhibitions. We're currently working with Scanner and the Museum of Docklands for their bridge exhibition. And so they've commissioned a new piece called Bridging the World. And what Scanner has done is he's gathered people's stories about bridges from around the world. And he's created this river of voices, which is speakers spaced out again throughout the space that play it back. And I just think it's kind of really interesting at the moment that museums are always looking for ways to really bring alive their archives and exhibitions. And I think it's a really interesting opportunity for sound art, and there's so many interesting things that are going on. So our role within this is kind of brokering those conversations and then supporting the two parties, so kind of holding the hands of people who might be a bit scared about how experimental sound art can be, and helping the composers with working with that as well. So that's on at the moment, so you can go see that. Also, we really enjoy helping people explore new technologies. So we have an incubator program that supports early stage ideas. And one of these is Tusk Festival, which is usually up in Newcastle every October. And they wanted to create new digital audiences for their mini festival, which is held in July. So they worked with another one of our incubator programs called Hugs Bison, and they work on collaborating online. And so they created this amazing live stream that actually had its life outside of the festival, that I actually think it was something that you could go to, and go to virtually, and experience in a completely different way to the festival. So they followed the artist behind the scenes, so you could kind of get exclusive footage that you wouldn't be able to go and get if you were physically at the festival. So that's a really exciting relationship that they've both now had, and they're actually thinking about how they can do it for the main festival in October this year. And also on the theme of technology, so we have a short-form residency program called Portfolio, and for the first time we had one based around improvisers, and this was held down in Cornwall with University of Westminster's Steve Beresford being the mentor, is he there? Yeah. Mentor. And it had two different groups. It had the conventional improvisers using conventional instruments, and we had two people using electronics, one of which was Shelley Knotts, who is live coding, and it's the first time that this group had worked together. And I think it's really interesting that both groups got completely different things out of it. For Shelley, one of the things that she reported back was that with obviously improvisation, it's all about reacting to the different times and the musical motifs. And with live coding, you physically have to type, and you can't do that as quick as other people can change notes on an instrument. So how can she overcome that without limiting her artistic practice, without kind of having a bank of stuff prepared beforehand, which is completely against what improvisation is. And for the conventional musicians, it opened their world and opened up their practice, so they could really learn from someone who's doing a similar thing to them, but just in a completely different and new way.
Oh, and this is just a quick final example, and there's, we'll show a film in a minute. So another very extended residency that we arranged was to work with the composer Tim Murray-Browne, and he had a residency of around 18 months with Music Hackspace, which I guess is something many of you will be familiar with, and if you're not, then I urge you to check them out because they're amazing. Anyway, I think I'm just going to go straight into Tim talking about his project because he can do it better than me.
The Cave of Sounds is an interactive installation made up of 8 new musical instruments in a circle, and it's a participatory work for audience members to come along and experiment with these different sounds. The installation is the result of a 10-month process where we've been meeting up regularly to create new musical instruments. The piece is inspired by the idea of prehistoric people coming together and using music as a way to relate to each other and form a common sense of identity. So we're really trying to encourage people to look up into this circle and be a part of this unified collection. The installation is made up of 8 different instruments. One uses an accelerometer and a gyroscope inside a sphere,
which makes sound. And for that reason, I also call it a sonic sphere.
One of them is based on the theremin, and you trigger it by moving your hand near an aerial. 2 are based on lights, one where you cast shadows using your hand.
That's a surface on which a light is shining, and you put your hands in between to make shadows on that surface.
And another way you bathe sensors in a light. And one uses the conductivity of human skin, where you wear a mask and you tap onto sensors to trigger different notes. 3 of them are based on the movement of the body.
The instrument I created takes people's body movements and then creates sounds based upon that.
My instrument uses sounds that were recorded in the internet. These sounds are triggered when people interact and move in front of the installation.
The instruments are all networked together, and we're sending OSC messages to some central system, which allows the instruments to identify places to converge and identify when people are communicating with each other. One of the interesting things about being here is how much the space itself affects the way people interact with each other.
I liked the primitive composition of it.
It's beautiful. It's actually really lovely to see a collective of people come together, strangers, and work together to create a sound.
People can play, but it's in a circle, so you feel like you're involved with something. So it's kind of like a community feeling.
So another part of what we do is we build audiences for the work as well. So one of the ways we do this is we hold an event series called Creative Data Club. It started in May this year and it runs throughout the year. So our previous edition was actually focused on the future of music technology, and it featured Tim. Tim was also here last year at Music Tech Fest, and he was great. And Di Mainstone, who creates instruments out of bridges, and we also had Mick Grierson from Creative Computing at Goldsmiths, as well as Julia Payne, who runs a Think and Do tank called The Hub, which is very similar to our incubator, and you should check it out if you're looking to kind of grow ideas. It's very interesting. So we held that, and it's an informal showcase, so it's just 10-minute slots for people to come and present their work in an informal setting. So it's a great place for people who are thinking through ideas and kind of want to get a bit of exposure so they can find people they want to talk about it with a bit more, or kind of want to grow that idea further. And the other main way we do it is through our blog. The Sampler blog, which we run, is completely powered by our community of composers and creative music makers and producers and organisations. It's really a coming together of people who just want to talk about new music, the issues, their documentation surrounding their work. Anything is kind of up for grabs, and we always talk to people about what do you want to speak about with it. So that's another really great way. I urge you to check out. It's fantastic. So that's kind of summing up the ways that we help and support and incubate these really, really exciting ideas. We help people to create new work and create new things with our residencies and our opportunities, and we help grow those ideas with our incubator, which incidentally is open at the moment for applications, and it's open to organisations or to individuals. Anything around new music, an idea that you want to grow, then let us know. Also and share through Creative Data Club and through the blog as well. So Susanna said we're around all afternoon, so please do come hunt us down if you want to speak about anything. We're very friendly.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much.